Welcome to This Explainer. You know, as a biological researcher studying the history of human connection, I get to look at some pretty wild stuff. And today, I'm taking you on a really thrilling biological journey. We're going to start all the way back at our terrifying origins, when we were basically just helpless prey, and trace how our desperate bid for survival evolved into this incredibly complex social language. It's a language so powerful, it's actually the exact reason why your adorable dog views you as its absolute emotional anchor today. It's this massive, mind-blowing story of survival, connection, and cross-species communication. So let's just dive right in.
Okay, to really understand our connection with animals today, we have to look at how hopelessly outmatched we used to be in the food chain. Picture this. 100,000 years ago, stepping outside your cave was a literal biological nightmare. We were facing off against absolute monsters, like the 600-pound saber-toothed Smilodon. I mean, think about it. We top out at what, maybe a 28-mile-per-hour sprint on our best day? We've got flat teeth and completely useless fingernails. Meanwhile, the Smilodon is rocking 11-inch canines and an explosive 40-mile-per-hour ambush. We couldn't outrun them, we couldn't outclimb them, and we definitely couldn't fight them. And the fossil record is startlingly clear about our status back then. We were prey. In 1924, a researcher named Raymond Dart made a discovery that kind of changed everything for us. He found the skull of a 3-year-old early human ancestor, and right through the eye sockets were 2 perfectly spaced holes that exactly matched the canine teeth of a leopard. This wasn't some one-off tragic accident. For millions of years, you guys, humans were quite simply on the menu. Just to give you a sense of the sheer severity of this threat, look at this number, 1,100 pounds. That is the crushing bite force per square inch of an ancient cave hyena. To put that into perspective, your bite force is a measly 162 pounds. These predators use that immense, bone-shattering power in terrifying, highly coordinated nighttime packs. Meanwhile, our slow, totally night-blind ancestors were just huddled in the dark, basically crossing their fingers and hoping to survive until morning. But, well, evolution gave us one incredible, game-changing advantage: adaptability. Over hundreds of thousands of years, we see this fascinating progression. About 1 million years ago, we figured out controlled fire, which basically created this magical 30-foot safety zone that predators instinctively stayed out of. By 400,000 years ago, we engineered the Shoningen spears. Suddenly, we could strike back from 30 feet away. And by 10,000 to 14,000 years ago, those giant apex predators, gone. Extinct. We used our brilliant brains to turn biological weaknesses into strengths, outlasting the very megapredators that used to hunt us. We also completely weaponized our own biology. Sure, we are terrible sprinters, but we can sweat. And that led to a genius, albeit kind of brutal survival tactic called persistence hunting. We didn't try to outrun our prey. We just tracked them at a gentle jog for 3 to 6 hours. Because animals covered in fur can't cool down while they're moving like we can. We literally just jogged our prey into total exhaustion until they collapsed from heat stroke. We are literally the only species on Earth that can pull that off. However, the absolute most vital evolutionary weapon that saved us, it wasn't our spears or our fire or even our stamina. It was our profound capacity for social connection. Think about this. We didn't just cooperate, we cared. Wolves hunt in packs purely on instinct, right? But humans survived the terror of those ancient predators through strategy, communication, and deeply forged social bonds. That empathy, our ability to care for each other, was our ultimate survival utility. In my own research into human evolution, there's one discovery that brilliantly illustrates this, and it hits me every time. It's the story of a 1.8 million-year-old skeleton found in Georgia. Now, this human ancestor lived for years with absolutely no teeth. In the wild, an animal with no teeth starves and dies almost immediately. But this individual survived. Why? Because someone in their pack was physically chewing and softening their food for them. We were keeping our vulnerable elders alive through direct, incredibly intimate care. That is a level of empathy that absolutely no other predator possesses. Section 1. The Modern Mirror. Decoding how animals view the apex survivor today. Okay, so we've transformed from helpless hunted prey to deeply connected, adaptable survivors. Now let's explore how those exact, ancient, hardwired social survival skills dictate how modern animals judge us today. Let's start with the animal that undoubtedly understands our ancient language best, the dog. Dogs don't actually think we are just weird-looking dogs. Their noses are way too good for that. But what they do is map our behavior directly onto their own survival utility. Remember how we survived those terrible nighttime predators? Through pack cohesion and empathy. Well, dogs tap into that exact same biological strategy. Because of our shared history of surviving the wild together, dogs view you as the provider and protector. You are quite literally their ultimate emotional anchor. You represent the core structure of their pack. Which, by the way, is exactly why you coming home from work isn't just casual for them. It's a massive, joyful family reunion every single time.
Now, contrasting this deep pack survival bond with cats is just fascinating for a biologist. While dogs see us as the essential emotional anchors of their pack, a cat's survival lens is entirely different. They see us more like, well, incredibly loud, ungraceful social partners. They rub against us and bring us gifts, much like they do with other cats in a colony. But get this, they actually invent special meows just to communicate with us, something adult cats very rarely do with each other. Essentially, your cat treats you like a slightly awkward, highly trainable giant who just happens to share their territory.
Moving on to horses, we actually present a really strange biological puzzle. Horses are classic prey animals, which means they are hypersensitive to body language. To them, we visually look terrifying. We have forward-facing eyes, and we approach them head-on, exactly like the apex predators we evolved to defeat. Yet, we bring them food, and we offer companionship. So a horse essentially has to learn to override its instincts and trust us, based purely on the calm energy we project, eventually accepting us as a safe, albeit very strangely shaped herd leader.
It gets even wilder when we look at how highly intelligent birds categorize us through their own lens of utility. Birds like crows and parrots are incredibly smart. They solve complex problems and recognize subtle patterns. If you cross a crow, watch out, it will hold a grudge against your specific face for years, and it'll even gossip and warn other crows about you. Meanwhile, your pet parrot at home might view you as a mate or a parent or honestly just a super powerful wingless flock member who inexplicably has the magic power to command the doors and turn on the lights. But step out into the city and the dynamic changes entirely. Wild urban animals, your pigeons, deer, squirrels, they literally do not care about your complex personality, what you do for a living, or what your name is. They are quickly categorizing you into very primal survival metrics. Are you a direct threat? Are you just harmless moving background noise? Or are you a large obstacle that might occasionally drop a French fry?
As a biologist, I always get a kick out of seeing how urban animals have adapted so perfectly to us. Take the city raccoon. To a raccoon, our entire vastly complex human civilization probably just looks like a wonderfully designed, highly complicated system specifically built to produce leftovers for them. And our trash cans, they aren't waste receptacles, they are literally just magical food boxes that we kindly stock and leave out for them every week.
Take a dive underwater and the perspective shifts yet again. Compared to the deep, emotional anchor bond we have with dogs, marine life views us with this funny mix of curiosity and, honestly, pity. Dolphins look at our slow, bubbly swimming and find us incredibly clumsy. I mean, we need all this heavy equipment just to breathe. Massive whales, on the other hand, seem to instantly recognize just how tiny and fragile we are compared to them, and they actively, consciously choose to be gentle around us in the water.
Even creatures with minds completely alien to ours pay attention to us through that same survival lens. Octopuses experience the world in ways we can barely even wrap our heads around, with arms that essentially think for themselves. Yet, they are intelligent enough to recognize individual human keepers standing outside their tanks. They will behave entirely differently around a person they like versus one they don't, proving that even to an octopus, we are large, predictable creatures that matter deeply to their daily survival and routine.
So the absolutely crucial point we need to take away from all of this is that the true cross-species language isn't words, it's behavior. Animals do not understand our complex human lives. They understand our patterns. Your dog learns that jingling keys mean you're leaving. Your cat learns that the sound of a popping can means dinner's ready. They are constantly watching us, reading our movements and our routines in the exact same way our ancient ancestors used to anxiously observe the habits of predators in the dark.
Since the very dawn of our evolution, we survived the darkest nights and the absolute deadliest predators, not with fangs or claws, but through profound connection, empathy, and deliberate action. We literally evolved to be the emotional anchors for the animals we eventually brought into our packs. Which leaves us with this one final fascinating thought. If the animals around you aren't trying to understand your words, your career, or your politics, if they are only reading the pure, unfiltered language of your daily behavior, what kind of creature are you telling them you are?